Hello and welcome to this British Psychological Society audio interview. I'm Wendy Barnaby and I'm joined by Maggi Evans, who is a consultant business psychologist. And Maggi, we're going to be talking about why there are fewer women in boardrooms than men. People have a lot of ideas about this, but you have some new thoughts about it. Just before we start, can you tell me about the disparity? What are the figures showing that there are fewer women than men?
The figures change depending on who's actually reporting them, but actually there's a definite recognition that there needs to be more diversity in the boardrooms, with figures about 20 to 30% looked for.
This is an aspiration given the current appalling figures, is it?
There's certainly a recognition that at the moment boards aren't diverse enough and there's far too many men in positions. Longer term, absolutely, it's looking for complete gender equality. But the first stages need to be helping organisations with something that they feel is more realistic. So hence the targets of 20 to 30%.
And what are the usual explanations for this paucity of women?
So the usual reasons people give are that there's gender stereotyping, that women don't get the same opportunities as men throughout their careers, that men have better networks and so they're better positioned to actually take on roles of responsibility because they know the people to invite. It seems that there are three key groups of women in senior roles in organisations. There's the first group who are highly successful, have achieved the board positions or very close to the board positions and feel that their gender has helped them or certainly not been a hindrance to them along the way. Interestingly, with this group, there's very few of them who are in dual career partnerships, particularly if there are children, because they have extensive childcare at home and frequently their partner is around at home as well and maybe still working but not in a high-powered career that demands as much from them. Then the second group are women for whom they're frustrated. They're finding it really tough to balance the work commitments and other responsibilities they might have outside of work. And they feel that the organisation lacks flexibility, they don't have the opportunity to work in part-time senior roles in the way they'd like to, and they maybe lack the network to actually drive things forward. This is the group of women that a lot of the support that's put in place can really help through networking, etc. But I think there's other things going on as well. For some women, yes, those are the issues, and those are genuine concerns that need to be addressed. But there's another group of women who are making a really positive choice to say, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I don't want to actually work the long hours. I don't want to struggle to juggle my home life and my work life. I want to do something different that I find really fulfilling, and I can't find that within an organisation.
What is the evidence that you've got that women are actually feeling like that?
I think it's not all women, and we need to be careful about making stereotypical judgments ourselves in doing this. And a lot of women do have very satisfying roles within organisations. But I do a lot of coaching work with women, and also when you read around in terms of looking at women's careers, a lot of women will recognise that they want different things in life, and perhaps women more than men feel that they're able to make a choice and therefore can choose to opt out and do something different that may be contributing to their home life, maybe contributing to society through maybe getting more involved in charities or not-for-profit sectors, or may make an economic contribution in a different way through, for example, working for themselves, setting up their own businesses, etc. And women are certainly the biggest group when you look at the data in terms of setting up new businesses.
Why do you think women are able to make these choices more than men are?
It's probably a positive impact of the gender stereotyping, that a lot of women who have children have a natural pause in their careers, and that's often an opportunity for reflection. And given that reflection, they think, well, what's my life about? And maybe some women, rather than conforming to a male stereotypical what success looks like, which is being on the boardroom, earning the money, having the impact and the influence, some women are making different choices to say, actually, my life, those things might matter, but they're not the most important thing, and making a choice for their own well-being and life satisfaction over some of the other more traditional male stereotypes of success.
I can't help wondering, though, whether they're taking this choice in the face of the dominant male stereotype, and they're almost saying to themselves, it's a lost cause. Men are going to run the boards. Why should I bang my head against a wall? I'd love to be up there with them if I could, but it's not going to happen, so I'll go and do something else. So it's almost born of defeatism.
It's very, very complex issues, and I think it's really hard, and I've challenged myself about this. How do you separate out what I really want versus my socialised responses to things? And tearing those apart is really, really difficult. And one of the interesting themes of this, though, is when you actually ask men what they want, increasingly, and particularly with the new generation, they're saying they want this more freedom. They want a different way of living, a different way of interacting with the organisations. And there's people like Oliver James, who's written a great book called Affluenza, and that really brings home the idea that we're all trapped in this virus of wanting to get more. And maybe women are ahead of the curve and have found a different way. But maybe they are. We are actually responding to the stereotype and giving up. But I don't think we are. I think women are much stronger than that.
People might argue that you're actually using this as a rationalisation for holding women back.
I'm absolutely committed to men and women having equal opportunities. Gender should not come into it. But what I am challenging is the idea that actually organisations can satisfy this gap, this gender gap, by just getting better shortlists, putting in mentoring for women, putting in additional opportunities for female development. Because I think there's a different, actually much more challenging thing for organisations to look at, which is how do they actually reconfigurate themselves, reassess what they need to be offering for men and women so that highly talented people want to stay.
Organisations might say, why should we bother if women go off? Well, let them go off. We've got great talent in our men.
The risk is that they don't have enough diversity, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that if you have a group that's very similar, they're not as good at problem solving. They're likely to take a few more risks as well, and that's where the data comes from to show that if you've got women on the boards as well, actually organisations perform better. The challenge we've got is that, there's a writer called Alison Wolfe who's written about this, the women that we've got often going into the boardroom are very similar to the men. They share a lot of the educational background, they share a lot of the social background as well. And so perhaps we haven't got enough diversity, and we need to look at other ways of bringing in new ways of looking at problems, different ways of considering who your target customers are, for example, and things like that.
What implications does this have for men?
I think it's a great opportunity for men to actually look at, well, what do they want? Why do they feel trapped? And I think men can learn from women finding their voice in this area. We need to treat everyone as an individual. And I think it's about having open conversations with ourselves about what we want and what we value, and with our organisations to look at how can we make the best possible contribution that satisfies everybody's goals.
Maggie, thank you very much.